Hello, I'm Chris Lemaire. I'm a programmer at the American Cinematheque. I'd like to welcome you to our virtual Q&A for QUO VADIS AIDA. Today, we are very excited to welcome the writer-director Jasmila Žbanić to talk about her incredible new film, which is nominated for an Academy Award for Best International Feature. Our moderator for today is Katie Walsh, who is a film critic for the Tribune News Service and the LA Times. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Katie and welcome Jasmila.
Hi, Jasmila. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so pleased that I get to talk to you about this incredibly special film, which is so overwhelmingly stunning and emotional. I mean, I think it eclipses sort of cinematic achievement. It's this really important document of history and memory and of truth that I know that you have grappled with throughout your career. So it's just a stunning achievement. So congratulations and thank you so much for being here to talk about the film with us.
Thank you so much. I have big pleasure to talk to you and your audience.
I know it's been kind of a big day for you because you were doing the BAFTAs earlier today. So congratulations on all of those awards and nominations for your film, which I think are absolutely deserved. I was so moved by this film. I was like crying within 2 minutes of it starting. So if I don't cry during this Q&A, it will be a success, but maybe it will be a success if I cry. But first I wanted to ask you, I know that this was a film that you had wanted to make for a very long time. And I do want to sort of talk to you about the process of that getting made, but I'm curious why you chose to tell this story through an interpreter and sort of the layers of storytelling that goes into interpreting and the sort of special conveyance that gives to your lead character of AIDA. So how did you kind of come to making your main character an interpreter?
Yes, I was, when I did research, I observed many aspects of Srebrenica, which you can take and follow and, you will have a story. But I was searching for a specific moment where I would be able to show, this bureaucracy side of why genocide happened, as well as this emotional and human side from the perspective of people who were there. So to have a character who is able to go from these official meetings to, being also Bosnian, it was actually Bosnian translator who works for UN. I also heard a story, a real true story of a translator who was there at that July 11, 95, and who had to translate to his family, now you have to leave the base. And for me, this moment was absolutely incredible because he never found his family again, only 10 years after in the mass graves. And this was for me, this combination of real events and world that I wanted to depict, to show, made AIDA being translator. And for me, important aspect was also that she was a teacher. Because, what can you learn after genocide? What can you teach after genocide? That's something I left as an open question.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I think your film, as sort of devastating as it is, has a hopeful, in a way, ending with the children coming together. I mean, there's all of this history and memory in that room, but I found the children, the new generation, to be a hopeful message, somewhere in all of this loss and death and devastation.
Yeah, my feeling, living here in Bosnia and living through the war is that, we are raising generation of kids who could open their eyes, because at the end of the film, I'm showing this choreography where kids are closing the eyes or opening. Depending on that, we will define our future, I think. If kids just close the eyes and repeat mistakes of parents, then I'm worried. But hopefully kids will not follow the paths of parents. At least that's what I'm telling my daughter. Don't listen to your parents. But yeah, the situation in Bosnia, it is like this. A lot of media, a lot of even schools, religion, they are dividing people. They don't put effort in uniting people. So this reflects also on kids. They have the same thing. But with this film, you know, I experienced also a different kind of things, that young people are sending me messages that they learned about something they didn't learn in school or through other sources. And maybe that's a generation who wants to open eyes.
Well, you know, that's part of what, you know, I wanted to ask about what it means for you to recreate this event on film, and the sort of logistical undertaking it was, but also the emotional undertaking for you and for all of the extras and actors who were involved. And I do want to dive into that, and also what drove you to want to do this, to tell this story. And it seems like it's such a noble undertaking to sort of inscribe history in this way in filmmaking. And that's why I feel like the film is so much more than just like I'm gonna watch a movie, you know. It's this really important document of truth. And so I did want to talk to you a bit about like sort of the challenges or the toll that it takes to recreate that experience, to relive it. And maybe there was some healing that was found in that, or some, I don't know. I'm curious what that experience was like for you and your crew and everyone involved.
Yeah, you know, as a Bosnian who lived through this, I remember this moment when we learned that United Nations, who were supposed to protect Srebrenica, just gave up and betrayed people. And I would say also they betrayed themselves, because United Nations should stand for protecting human rights. And from that moment, I have very strong emotions about these events. And I read everything I could. I go there every year for commemoration, for funerals. There was something in it which I found important for me. It is, of course, also very emotional to know that 8,372 people were killed in few days. And there are so many survivors, mothers who are searching for their sons, for their husbands. And even until now, 1,000 bodies are not, more than 1,000 bodies are still not found. So, you know, this tragedy is present in my everyday life. And also it's a lot of effort is put by Serbia to deny that genocide happened. Every year during commemoration, you know, there is a lot of media coverage from the right wing that genocide never happened, you know, that these mothers are fake, and these kind of things really hurt. So maybe that was also one of the reasons why I thought, okay, this story needs to be told, and not, you know, every year hide and try to prove it's truthful. So I really respect all facts, what happened there. I researched, I checked 3 times with witnesses if it was something like this or that. And then I, of course, made a fictional film, but it was based on what was going on there. One more thing I wanted to say is that during the filming, I had feeling that people wanted so much that this story is told, exactly because of these reasons. Because as a victim, there is something in the fact that somebody recognized your pain. You know, if you study the any kind of victim, you know, victim of rape, victim of any violence, there is a healing process starts when your pain is recognized, when somebody tells you, yes, I respect what you went through. That's when healing starts. And I had feeling these women and a lot of people in Bosnia are not in a path of, you know, overcoming trauma, because it's denied all the time. They have to prove it happened. So when we had 500 extras on the set, so many of them had the same destiny, and they wanted to make the film exactly for this reason, that world see their pain, that with every good review of the film. People had feeling that they, you know, that something of them was recognized, something of their pain was recognized. So for us, this film is more than film, you know.
Right.
I don't like to say this because many wonderful films don't have to have this kind of, you know, emotional impact on everyday life. But for us, it has.
Well, it feels like more than a film to me as well. It's like a movement, it's a record, it's a story, it's a beacon of truth that needs to, you know, be a part of this healing process. And I think it's important for, you know, Bosnians and Serbians to see it, but for Americans to see it too. And even, you know, I knew of what was going on, but I didn't know the details, and it was incredibly important for me to see as well. So I do thank you for your commitment to that research and that truth, and that, you know, finding out the facts and how things worked out. And, you know, that's one of the, you know, things about the film is like this maddening bureaucracy that occurs with the UN and the Dutch forces, and the way that a list can mean life or death, or a broken badge machine, or these small little micro decisions. And sort of at the end of towards the end of the film, when the I guess it's Franken is telling her, you know, I'm sorry, we follow the rules. It's just this gut-wrenching scene, because she knows in some unspoken fashion, like what the fate of her family is. And it's interesting because I'm curious if you can tell me a little bit about sort of these unspoken moments, of this unspoken knowing that she has, and that some of the other women seem to have, of like what's going on, or you know, that the Dutch forces don't seem to comprehend. I found that really powerful. It's like the way that they know what's happening, but they can't quite speak it.
Yeah, when you mentioned this scene, what is interesting that UN was obliged to protect people. There was UN Resolution 819, where they were supposed to protect people with weapons. And in a final report about Srebrenica, you can read that they didn't fire a single bullet. So this, you know, what is rules and what they should do was very selective for them. They should protect people. They didn't do that, but they were very strict with some lists that they think, you know, are important to keep in order. And this balance makes us really angry of why things happened. And of course, you know, we during the writing the script and filming, especially for my actress Jasna Đuričić, we always talked about playing two things at the same time. One was that she believed in UN. She really thought, okay, everybody will be rescued because that's what UN does, and her family will be rescued. On the other hand, she was knowing that it's such a danger, and she was so afraid that the worst will come. So to play these both things at the same time was a big effort of actor and Jasna especially.
Absolutely. And she conveys it so beautifully, because she can never quite say what she thinks or fears will happen, but she knows it. And you see it in the desperation, especially as she's, you know, trying to hide her family. It just grows and grows. I wanted to talk about one of the motifs that you use in the film, one of the stylistic motifs that was repeated a couple of times, where you show different faces of people looking into the camera. It sort of opens the film. It's at the end when she's entering the village again, and then also at the party when they're dancing and everyone sort of stops in front of the camera. And I found it really powerful to have all these different faces sort of looking right at us. And I wanted to ask how you sort of came to that creative decision, and what it sort of means for you in the film.
Yes, I love people's faces. I think that it's a geography, it's narrative, it's books and library and everything is in people's faces. And this for me is the most crucial. So I take time choosing actors, and we even choose all extras, you know, picture by picture. We didn't treat them like a mass, but really we choose every person individually. Because I think that is what creates energy and tells story, their faces. So our first day of shooting was New Year's Eve, and this competition for the best hairstyle. And I knew this will be around minute 30, because I wanted that people enter this hell when army is coming and people find shelter in UN. But I knew in one silent moment or one more peaceful moment, I wanted to show them that these people were like you and me. They had life, they had, you know, silly celebrations, celebrating New Year's Eve. And when we were shooting this scene where all people who will become enemies were together, I thought, you know, to film the it's called QUO, this dancing, it's traditional dancing that people still use in everyday celebrations. Mm-hmm. So I started with that, and I knew I want to film it in slow motion to see what will bring. And then I thought I did a version where I asked everybody to look at the camera, and everybody behind the monitor was frozen. That's wow. How powerful it was for us, because we thought, okay, they, you know, some of them will be killed, some of them at that minute of the film is already killed, and some will be. So it worked so emotionally for us that we thought, okay, this is a discovery that we found. And then later I did use this method more often. In some scenes it didn't work, in some scenes it worked, so I kept it in the editing. But I felt it is important that people take time to observe people's faces.
Absolutely. And even in the scene at the end where you're in the children's recital, that was so powerful to me too. It's like, oh my God, the two representatives of this negotiation are sitting right there, and it's the people who survived and the people who didn't. And it's just devastating to sort of see the intimacy of the community both before and after this just unspeakably horrific and evil event. And so how does a community move forward from that, and how does a community heal from that? And I think especially like the purpose of your film is sort of like forcing us to confront the horrificness of this event. So it's just incredibly powerful.
I would like to say, you know, when I learned in elementary school about Second World War, or later in the gymnasium, we always believed that after peace came, that all fascists were in prison. I never learned in school, you know, that not all of them were in prison, or you know, sentenced. So many people stayed in as a teachers in school. They stayed in politics. They stayed in administration. And for me, after Bosnian war, what was shocking is that a lot of perpetrators were in a police, in the administration, even in schools, even in politics still. And this is something that I find would be great that our kids learn. Fascists don't go away when we sign peace agreement. They live among us. You know, today they live among us, and only it's a question if circumstances switch, will they come up and show themselves? And you know, that I would like to somehow that it vibrates from the film, because it is about today. Talking about these events in '95, I always have feeling I'm actually talking about today and not only about Bosnia.
Absolutely. And I felt that your film was speaking to the past, to World War II, and speaking to today. And you know, you have these thoughts when these things happen. Oh, never again. We're never going to allow this again. And then it does. And so I, one of the things that was so powerful to me was, yes, the sort of banality of these people kind of just slipping back into everyday life, leading normal lives, or even, her former student who's like, hi teacher, and just the way that communities can be driven apart by these ideological conflicts that are, they seem so meaningless in the face of the loss of human life, and the grief that comes from that, just incredible loss. So I thought your film really straddles this historical and present moment in a way that was so powerful.
Thank you very much. I was observing when, the Radovan, the General Mladic, who is also character in the film, he's the real general who was sentenced for genocide. He will stay life in prison. And I was, of course, watching the trial when they told that he will be in prison for the rest of the life. And I thought I will have this feeling of relief after I hear the sentence. But the fact was that I was so sad because he didn't bring anything good to his people, to Serbian people. They live in, very poor and surrounding, which is full of bad energy, a lot of mass graves and this terrible guilt. Also, on the other side, victims are devastated, the whole infrastructure, buildings, everything is destroyed. And I was thinking, what was the purpose of all of this?
For what?
For what was this? For why 100,000 dead people, 2 million people expelled? And, this was for me, like, I thought I will feel good when he's in prison, but actually it was I think every war, it was just not good for people.
Yeah, I did look up General Mladic after the film, and I was shocked that he wasn't convicted until 2017. I mean, that was shocking to me. At least something came of it, because all too often war criminals get away with their crimes. But, so I'm glad that some justice was served, but I was surprised that he was still alive, to be honest. But yes, it's hard to try to feel like there's a sense of justice, or, I don't know what the right word is. I don't want to say retribution, but, because at the end of the day, like, what was this in service of? And if it did not achieve something, then what was this all for? I'm going to ask a couple questions from the audience. And I'm curious about this question as well, which is, what has the reception of the film been like in Bosnia?
Yeah, we decided when we were filming, because what I mentioned, politically, this is still very heated subject. Serbian politicians denied the genocide happened. We were not allowed to shoot in Srebrenica because the mayor denies the genocide happened. So we thought, okay, it will be a lot of political battles over our film, and we didn't want that. So for 2 years, I didn't give any interview or talk about the film, and we were filming it in complete silence.
Wow.
And then after film was premiered in Venice, we decided to make a premiere in Bosnia, but only for young people, no VIPs and no politicians, because we wanted to give a message to Bosnians and Serbians and everybody that, film is not made to divide people. It's not made to accuse anybody, but to make us more empathic and more understanding. And young people who were born after genocide, they are not guilty of anything. They shouldn't feel as victims because they belong to one nation, and they shouldn't feel like perpetrators because they belong to other nation. They should be emancipated. And even if it's a story about the past, I have feeling that it's, giving them emancipation because they don't have to deal with it. We did it, we want to show them what happened. They shouldn't close their eyes, but they should move on. And from that premiere, I had feeling that people really appreciated that such a hot political subject was not used to make clash between people. And from then on, we had, we couldn't have distribution in Serbia. People were, distributors were really afraid to show the film, but we played it on VOD. And I received so many beautiful messages, especially from young people who are saying, thank you, because it's a huge step to look at the past in a different way than we were presented. And many say that, they always felt that narrative about Srebrenica, that there was something wrong with it, the way how it was presented in Serbian media. People felt there was something wrong. And by watching the film, one woman wrote me, she had kind of catharsis because she realized what was wrong all these years, what was hidden all these years. So I could say, yes, there is a lot of bad press, a lot of war criminals talking against the film. They are saying that Jasna Đuričić, main actress, who is from Serbia, she's Serbian actress, that she's a traitor of her people and so on. And like Boris Isaković, who plays Mladić, he is also called traitor. But that's one part of it. But what I want to stress out is this other part, which is maybe smaller, but for me, it's more important. This appreciation and really respect towards the film. And I think these things are moving things forward in this region.
I mean, if you're pissing off war criminals, you're doing something right.
Yes.
So I will ask another question from the audience. Someone says, can you talk about how you used and approached color and light, particularly sunlight in the film? The patches of color seen in sunlight were so haunting yet deeply beautiful.
Yes, we with my camera woman Christine Meyer, I did all my films with her, so we are very close and we can communicate very easily about stuff. And she was so many times in Bosnia, so that she also had this experience. July 11th was a beautiful summer day in '95, and every time we were there for the anniversary, we were shocked how beautiful nature is. How, birds are singing, sun is shining. It could be atmosphere for holidays. And to have this horrible atrocities done in such a beautiful day was something that we found it, absolutely mind-blowing. So we decided to keep, beautiful sunny day and to keep also contemporary clothes, though these people are maybe from, a lot of them were from villages around Srebrenica, they are in these traditional clothes, but there are also people who were, in Nikes, in all-star sneakers and stuff like that, because they belong to today, it was 25 years ago, it's contemporary. And we decided that inside of the UN base, we keep it, like a room, a little safety place with more reduced light, to feel that if you are inside, you are more safe. So these two things were something that we worked with. And also for the last part, in the script, I imagined it's best contrast if we have snow, because her soul is frozen and she goes really on ice when she's going towards her past, towards Srebrenica. So this was like with no colors except for kids.
Yeah, I mean, there's a sense of when everybody's outside of the gate in this bright sunlight, just the intense exposure of these people who are so vulnerable outside of the gate, just something about the sun beating down on them is like really makes it feel more vulnerable, more exposed.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, I am going to ask another question from someone who has expressed how grateful they are that you made this film from this point of view. And they would like to know, were you afraid of making this movie? How long did it take to write it and make it? You kind of answered that a little bit. How do you keep motivated with such a heavy subject? And how was your family life and your psyche throughout this project? A lot of questions. So whatever speaks to you.
Very interesting. It's
Yeah.
very interesting question. Thank you. Look, I knew that going into this subject in my region is a minefield, not
Right.
only because of the denial and stuff, but also it's very hard to make something where survivors are here and they can they can watch the film. And of course that I knew that I can't in 104 minutes present somebody's pain, but
Right.
and the life of 25 years of suffering. It can't go into this 100 minutes. So I was, because I did some short films where I was also dealing, like some documentaries where I was dealing with real people. They always wanted that their pain is shown even more and even more. But I was also responsible towards film language and film audience. So there were a lot of things to, to juggle, to be cautious about. The whole process was very long. I started with one story that I turned during the process because it wasn't working. And the reason that it wasn't working, I think, is because in the first versions of the script, I put a lot of my personal anger and, why these things happened. When you start researching and you meet a woman who lost 60 members of her family, So my first versions were really bad because I was so angry. I put all this anger in, but then I had to, go back and find the way how to connect with the audience and not to beat audience. This is big difference, that I invite audience to be with these people. I know it's not easy to be invited in such a hard thing, but on the other hand, I wanted the audience to give something also human that they will get out from the cinema or from the film to gain something. So this was a long process with me, how to work on myself and how to work with the material. And motivations were probably, first of all, meeting all these women, mothers of Srebrenica, was such an inspiration, because after what happened to them, they managed to organize themselves in a solidarity way and to seek for truth and justice and never asking revenge. Because I was thinking, if this group of women, it's a big group because, as I said, 8,000 people died. If they said, let's do revenge, Bosnia would still be in war. And I find that these women, the approach they had towards this whole situation, towards the peace, was amazing. And every time I thought I will give up, I can't, because we had a lot of financial problems. Bosnia is producing one film, which is approximately 1 million, and this film was 4.5 million. So it was like mission impossible. But every time I thought, okay, we give up, I thought, these women didn't give up, and how can you give up on such unimportant issues like finding money, which is really, compared to them, nothing. So these kind of things were motivating me to go on.
That's amazing. I mean, it's a huge responsibility, but I think that your vision, remains so clear. And I appreciate that you see the anguish of these mothers, but it's all sort of wrapped up in the performance of Jasna. So there's a very clear, you're not trying to do everything, but you're just trying to tell one very specific, very impactful story. And I think that that's such an achievement. We'll do one more question, and I am going to look through the questions. Do you think that, okay, so this question says, are you open to making another war film? And I know that your other films have been about these events in Bosnia and the war in Bosnia, and sort of the not just the war, but the repercussions and the way people grapple with it throughout their lives. Is this a topic that you will come back to in your work, or is it something that you feel compelled to tell these stories, to represent these issues, and how does that function within your career?
Look, I never think of my career. I always think what is urgent for me to
Right.
deal with. What is something that I can't sleep if I, how much I am obsessed with it. On one way, I would love to make film or maybe TV series about the siege of Sarajevo, because I was 17 when war started in Sarajevo, and it was very specific and undescribed situation, because it was war, it was very sad, but it was also full of life and full of humor and fun, which is very hard to explain. But during these 4 years under siege of Sarajevo, we established, film festival, and we started with schools, and we were falling in love. And that is something that you don't see so much in war films. But I don't want to do it immediately. I need a little bit of rest after this film. And but once in my life, I would really like to do it. So obviously, it doesn't let me go. This experience is something that not only that it was so big and traumatic for me that I need to process it, and I need to share it, and many people who don't have voice to talk about it, I have feeling sometimes I'm representing them as well and their voice. But with saying all of that, sometimes I think I am also the other part of person, which is also fun and having, life with love and stuff like that. It's not only war, but it is important part of my life, of course.
Right. Well, and life goes on during wartime, like you were saying, in the siege of Sarajevo. I mean, people don't stop falling in love and having babies and continuing to live their lives. So I think that's an important message as well, that those things can coexist.
I felt in love with my husband in 92, and it was so so special, because it is you don't know if you will live tomorrow, so you will give everything and say everything you don't forget to say, because you don't know if you have another chance. And we are still together. He's also producer of this film.
Oh,
which
I'm crying now. I made it to the end.
I will also cry.
Okay.
So
I think that's a good, hopeful ending. I don't have any tissues on me for this conversation, but I'm so thrilled for you and for this film, and thank you so much for talking about it with us. And I know the Oscars are coming up soon, so we will be rooting for you.